They're going to need us. They're going to need Israel. Literally supporting terrorism. No one knows and nobody cares. Not in a supremacist kind of way, in a real way.
What role should Israel play in their lives?
Unfortunately, there aren't many like this, but if there are Jews who are out there and are able to take a step back and look at the situation in an objective way, then I think that their relationship with Israel should be, they know that sooner or later, and I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope it happens in generations, not in decades, they're going to need us. They're going to need Israel because we're going to be the only safe haven for them. Unfortunately, it's tragic to say, but I have no problem, and I want to emphasize this, I have no problem with anyone, I don't care who they are, criticizing Israeli, these government and their policies. Totally legitimate. But to question the existence of the state of Israel, the legitimacy of the state of Israel, that's not okay. And so, to me, the relationship between any Jew and Israel should be a relationship of love, respect, of support, because unfortunately, the reality is, history is any indication, sooner or later, these Jews who are very comfortable in America are going to need Israel.
You brought up the specter of education. Do you feel that American Jews have done a good job, bad job, okay job in the past, needs to change regarding educating the youth about this role with Israel?
Well, obviously, that's way too broad of a generalization. I can't say Jews in general. Some are better, some are worse. But I mean, to me, I think that the manifestation, or I would say the illustration of how badly we've done in terms of educating our kids are the fact that there are Jews for Palestine. Yeah. People wearing a prayer shawl and a kippah on their head, literally supporting terrorism. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. I mean, maybe pre-October 7th, you could differentiate between Hamas and Gaza, but when they have 80%, I mean, again, the beauty is of me being independent, not having an organization behind me, is I could say whatever I want. And so, just look at this isn't an opinion. This is facts. Okay. Look at what percent support the Nazis had in Germany. 33%, depends what poll you're looking at. A third of Germans supported Nazi Germany. And no one questions the legitimacy of World War II and the need to completely obliterate, Nazi Germany, even though 33% supported them and the rest of them were quote unquote innocent Germans. And so when you're talking about Hamas having 80 to 90% support in Gaza, like, let's stop with the charade of, there's Gaza and the innocent Gazans. The innocent Gazans marched into Israel and raped women on October 7th. Not all of them. And, again, to be totally clear so that no one misunderstands or misinterprets my words, of course there are innocent people in Gaza. Of course there are. But is that even a point worth mentioning? What war in history did not have innocent people that died? Were there not innocents in Japan? Did anyone question the legitimacy of winning World War II? Why is this war the only war? Or I should say, why are Israel's wars the only wars where anyone even talks about how many innocent people died in Afghanistan? No one knows and nobody cares. Only when it comes to Israel, how many innocent people? It's a double standard. And to me, it's the face of anti-Semitism. That's the reality. And, I just think Israel, it's again, tragic. It's terrible to say, and it hurts me to say it. But once again, even though we have quote unquote friends in the world, and I want to express gratitude to America. America was great to my family, and America's, sending in ammunition and support and weapons. And I thank them for everything that they've done for the Jewish people. But anybody who thinks that the Jewish people can depend on a foreign government to be there when we need them is not paying attention, is not reading history books. And so, today we have support and it's great, but we cannot depend on anyone but ourselves. And history has shown that over and over and over again. So just to answer your question, I think that American Jews, there are many people who have a role there. I think that educating, giving Jewish education to the next generation, all very, very important. Some people might even have a role to stay there. I'm not going to get into it, but like it or don't like it, AIPAC's doing a lot of good work for the Jewish people. And so there are people/organizations that I think have an important role outside of Israel. That being said, I think we need to understand what the future holds for the Jewish people, and it ain't pretty. And so we need to understand that Israel and Judaism is one and the same. There's no separating them, despite the fact that our haters and the anti-Semites around the world love to pretend that you can separate. You can't separate. Zionism and the love for Israel and the longing for Israel is as core to Judaism as Mecca is to Islam. You can't separate the two. And, I think that as we speak, as of right now, and there are obviously millions and millions of Jews in America, I think we need to do a better job educating our children and the next generation to be the name of your podcast, Proud Jews, and stop apologizing. Enough with appeasing and apologizing. We have been a real concrete source of light in this world, in a real, not in a supremacist kind of way, in a real way. Again, Nobel Prizes. Who's leading the world in cancer research? Israel. Who's first on scene when there's a natural disaster? Israel. The Jewish people have been nothing but a source of light in a very, very dark world. The problem is we're afraid to own that light. It's like, what are they going to say? Enough with that already. Own it. It's time to be proud Jews and own what we are and who we are. Unfortunately, that is not, in my opinion, a value that, again, I'm generalizing, that the Jewish people in the diaspora educate their kids toward. And I think that maybe is the most important value that we all need to know. We are proud to be Jewish. We're not apologizing. We, like anyone else, make mistakes, don't get me wrong, but we've been an incredible source of light in the world, and it's time we own that light.
Is owning it the best way to fight anti-Semitism?
Wow, how much time do we have? It's a very, very good question, right? And this is another one of those questions. I have a long list of questions that I've always struggled with my entire life. Why do they hate us? Like, what did we ever do that's anything but good in this world? Like, why do they hate us, right? And, you could say many things. You could say jealousy. You can say, the fact that the Jewish people are so dominant. Let's not sugarcoat it. We are very dominant. We are dominant in government. We are dominant in media. It's true. We don't control the media, but we're a very strong presence. In the short term, it will only give our haters even more ammunition. It's like, oh, these Jews think they're better than us, right? But in the long run, I think, like anything, by the way, nothing to do with, Judaism or politics. I think when a human being or when a kid, let's take a very simplistic example, when a kid comes to school with confidence, the bullies pick on him less, period, right? And so, yeah, it could be that in the beginning, they're going to pick on us for being so confident and owning the light. It could be. But in the long run, I think, if we don't love ourselves, how are we expecting anyone else to love us?
Right. This is what Jewish pride is. And that's what motivated me to start this podcast. I love, I don't know if you know the author Ben M. Freeman, who wrote Jewish Pride. And it's this idea, no one else is going to like you if you don't like yourself. That's a simplistic way, but it's the fundamental truth,
Listen, let's just say it as it is. We are pretty freaking awesome. Really, I mean, I know that sounds like a funny statement, but we are pretty freaking awesome. We're 0.01 of the percent of the population. We've won I don't even know the number, but look at the amount of Nobel Prizes we've won. It's crazy. I mean, literally, anybody who knows anything about cancer research, go down the list of leading cancer treatments and cures in the world. I would bet 9 out of 10 of them were developed in Israel. And that's not an exaggeration, right? I mean, we are pretty freaking awesome. We've done amazing things in this world. And I just think we need to stop apologizing. That's it. We just need to stop apologizing. I tell you something that I heard from a rabbi in the beginning of the war that just blew my mind. Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg from Boca Raton?
Yeah.
He's amazing. First of all, he's amazing, but he said the following thing, and this really sums it all up. It really does. And I think, if your listeners and viewers remember one thing from this podcast, remember this, because this is unbelievable. Those who get in your face, those who don't stand with you, they will see your light. They will see your charity. They will see your delegations. They will see all the unbelievable unity in the Jewish people. They will see the light of the Jewish people in a very, very dark world, because that is how we deal with adversity. We shine our light. Unlike any other nation, and unlike, I would say it's even anti, nature and science, we as a nation, the more they persecute us, the stronger we get. Right? The more they bully us, the stronger we get. And that's directly in the Bible. It says it in ancient Egypt. The more they reproduced and the more they flourished, which how does that happen? That doesn't make any sense. You'd think we're persecuted, we're going to get all weak. No, we're like a diamond, right? We keep getting stronger, right? We're an unbelievable nation. We really are. We're an unbelievable, who makes mistakes, right? That mistakes can manifest in a million different ways. We've made mistakes. Jewish people make mistakes. The state of Israel makes mistakes. We're human. But if you take a step back and you look objectively at history, the Jewish people are a pretty freaking amazing nation.
I just had a conversation with my daughter. She's 8. As I was putting her to bed last night, she asked us, why is there, she phrased it differently, but why is there anti-Semitism? And I'm like, oh boy, how do you answer that? And then 5 minutes before you go to bed, I did make it clear it's a longer conversation. But look, to fight this anti-Semitism in this pride that we're talking about, this light that we can bring to others, is Jewish unity needed for that? And what does that look like?
Yeah, 100%. People forget this, but the most fundamental strength that the Jewish people possess is unity. Rashi, the famous commentator on the Torah, says they were like one man with one heart. That is our strength. That is what makes us unique when we are together, when we are united and unified. Unfortunately, tragically, we always, throughout the generations, the only time we unify is when we have a joint enemy. Unfortunately, when we don't have an enemy to fight, we are always split. Some of the issues that we're split on, let's just call them quote unquote legitimate arguments and debates and important topics. Some of them, unfortunately, are just straight up hatred and just self-hatred. And it's terrible. It's so tragic to see. We saw this, unfortunately, right before October 7th in Israel. I mean, literally, and I'm not taking sides about the judicial reform. It doesn't matter. The reality is that Jews wanted to pray on Yom Kippur in the streets of Tel Aviv, and they were not allowed to, which is, I mean, like if I had told you, that one day Jews in the land of Israel won't be allowed to pray on the streets, you would have said that's crazy. There's no way that's ever going to happen. But we're not allowed to pray in the holiest place of the Jews, right? The Temple Mount. We're not allowed to pray there. So again, it all comes back to owning it. Always comes back to Jewish pride. If we're not proud of ourselves, if we don't love ourselves, then what do we expect other people to do? If we don't love ourselves, they're not going to love us either.
So perhaps this might be my last question. Then you're talking about this unity, this pride, this light. So there's optimism there, and you've also spoke very pessimistically about the future outside of Israel. When you think about the future of Israel and the Jewish people globally, worldwide, what gives you hope? And should we be hopeful? Crystal ball, where is this headed? And
you don't have to. You don't need a crystal ball. It brings us back to literally the first thing that we said on this conversation, which is look at history. Yeah. That's it. Look at history. History repeats itself, right? We're here. Where are all these, massive empires? Ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome. Where are they? Where's Persia? They're all gone. We're here, right? So we're going to continue to be here. God's our Father. God loves us. Yes, we make mistakes, and sometimes we don't know why things happen. To be clear, I don't know why October 7th happened. I don't know why the Holocaust happened. I have no idea. I don't know why God does what he does. I know that God loves us, and I know that he has his reasons. I don't know what they are. I like for myself, and this is just for myself. Nobody has to adopt this or accept this. For myself, what I tell myself is that if I bring my 3-year-old kid to the doctor and the doctor takes out a needle to give him a shot, this kid's screaming at the top of his lungs, telling me, how could you let this strange man stab me? What kind of father lets someone stab his son? What is wrong with you? You're a horrible person, right? And yet I'm his father, and I know this is what this child needs, as hard as it is for him to understand. So I don't know why we need this shot. I don't know. What I do know is God loves us. And what I do know is that we'll be here. We will continue to be here. The reality is that we all celebrate these holidays. But again, how many of us actually think about what Purim was? What was Purim? We're celebrating, we're drinking, we're getting dressed up, we're eating. What was Purim? Purim was the near genocide of the Jewish people. Ahasuerus was the king of the world, 127 countries, and he agreed to annihilate us. We were done. We were done. That's it. There was no Jewish people. We were done. And here we are celebrating. What was Hanukkah? We were fighting a war. There was no way we were going to win. It was done. We were finished. What was Passover? 210 years of backbreaking slavery, and here we are celebrating. So Simchas Torah, we will dance again. It will again be the happiest day of the Jewish calendar. The reality is we will be here because Am Yisrael Chai. We have to get through this. It's a very dark time. It's a very hard time, but it's not even close to the worst we've had in our history. And here we are, and the rest of these guys, all of them, every single one of them that came up against us are all gone. As a tech guy, I find it amusing that all the tech companies that have stood by the Jews are doing incredibly well. Do you know what the most valuable company in the world is right now?
Yeah.
NVIDIA.
Say it
NVIDIA.
Again? NVIDIA. Okay.
NVIDIA. Right? NVIDIA is the most pro-Israel company. They've been super vocal, super standing by Israel. What's number 2? What's the second most valuable company in the world? Apple.
What?
You know where their offices are in Herzliya. What's the third most valuable company in the world? Microsoft. You know that Microsoft started Microsoft Ventures in Herzliya? You know how Microsoft has 2 massive offices in Israel? It's building everything that when you use Microsoft Teams, all the AI built in Israel. So these 3 companies, just to give among many, many others, are the most pro-Israel, but not in they put their money where their mouth is. And look how successful they are. So I truly believe that those that stand with the Jews will be successful and will be blessed. And we see it in real life. And we see, unfortunately, that the people who don't stand with us, unfortunately, they see our light, but they also end up failing. And that is, unfortunately, what history is dictating will happen to Western civilization, assuming, of course, that the anti-Semitism continues in the trajectory that it's continuing. And right now, nothing will make me happier than to be wrong. Unfortunately, history seems to indicate that I'm not wrong, and it's going to get a lot worse. And then right after that happens, we know, again, the empire falls. Please God, I will be wrong.
Thank you, Hillel, for your passion, for your advocacy, and thank you so much for being so proudly Jewish.
I guess I should, before we hang up, apologize to anybody that I offended, because I'm assuming many of the things that I said offended a lot of people. So just know, whoever's listening and or watching, that it comes from a place of love, not judgment. I'm not judging anyone. I moved to Israel when I was 15. My parents brought me here. I didn't sacrifice anything. So I'm a big talker. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. You do what's best for you. I just believe that Jewish people belong in Israel, but in due time, when everyone's ready, it's not something that I'm saying, oh, just pick up and move to Israel. It's super easy. No. So apologies if I did offend anyone, but it comes from a place of love.